Hello students and families. Tonight we're introducing the first lesson of our new unit. Our main focus questions: how do we identify if a number is a factor of another number? And how do we recognize divisibility? In order to recognize divisibility and factors, we need to first define divisible by, and then you need to know the different divisibility rules that we are going to teach throughout this lesson. Throughout the video, you'll have an opportunity to pause the video and try and answer out yourself. Then continue to play the video to check your answer and move forward, or rewind to double check. Let's jump into the slideshow. Let's start with the divisibility rule for 2. You can divide any number by 2 that has a 0, a 2, 4, 6, or an 8 in the ones column. In other words, if it's an even number, it's divisible by 2. Examples are the number 78 or 3,470, because those numbers have even numbers in the ones column. You could also say that 12 divided by 2, 12 is divisible by 2, because if you divided 12 by 2, you would get an exact whole number. The same can be said for 56 divided by 2. So let's try one question out. I'm going to ask you this question. Which number is not divisible by 2? 572, 1,464, or 249? Pause the video now, do your problem, and then check it by pressing play. The answer is 249. Let's check. Wonderful. If you had 249, I'm going to show you why you were correct. The problem gave us 3 choices, and it was looking for a number that was not divisible by 2. Well, we know the rule. If it's divisible by 2, the number needs to have a 0, a 2, a 4, a 6, or an 8 in the ones column. So the first thing I would do is I would underline the digits in the ones column and immediately recognize that 572 is divisible by 2 because it ends in a 2, and 1,464 is divisible by 2 because it ends in a 4. However, 249 ends in a 9. That is not one of these numbers in the one column, which means the correct answer was 249. Let's jump into the divisibility rule for 3. A number is divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits is equal to a number that can be divided by 3 evenly. Examples: 75 can be divided by 3 equally because if I separate the 2 digits in the number 75 and add them together, I get 12. Well, 12 is exactly 4 when divided by 3 without a remainder. The same can be said for the number 369, because if you wanted to divide that by 3, but you wanted to check the divisibility rule first, you take the 3 digits in 369, separate them apart, add them together. 3 plus 6 is 9, and 9 plus 9 is 18. Divide 18 by 3, and if you get an exact whole number, which you do in this case 6, then that means the 369 that we started with is also divisible by 3. Let's try another one out. In this question, we are again looking for which number is not divisible by 3. 572, 1,464, or 279. Pause the video, show all of your work, and then press play again to check and see if you're correct. After I complete my work, I get the answer 572 is not divisible by 3. Let's check. Well, it looks like I'm correct again. Let's check Mr. Panza's work on his whiteboard to make sure. I did the bottom 2 because they are actually divisible by 3, and then we'll check the one that was our incorrect answer, which in this case was the one that they were looking for. I had 279. Remember that in order to be divisible by 3, the numbers sum when separating the digits 2, 7, and 9 must be divisible by 3. So 7 plus 2 plus 9 equals 18. And when I divide 18 by 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, I get 6. Well, that's an exact whole number without a remainder, which means it's divisible by 3. The same can be said for 1,464. I take the 4-digit number, I add those numbers together, and I get 15, and then I skip count by 3 to check for divisibility. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I stop at 5 with an exact whole number. However, the same cannot be said for 572. When I add 5 plus 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with my touch points, 13, 14 is my total, and if I tried to divide 3 into 14, I would get 3, 6, 9, 12, 4 with a remainder of 2, which tells me that 572 is not divisible by 3. 3 is not a factor of 572. The divisibility rule for 5 and for 10 are very similar, so we're going to do those next two in succession together. A number is divisible by 5 that has a 0 or a 5 in the ones column. Similar to see if it was divisible by 2, but this time in the ones column we need a 5 or a 0, like in 615. In the ones column it's a 5, which means it's divisible by 5. And in 1480 it ends in a 0, which means it's divisible by 5. Here's your try it out question. Which number is not divisible by 5? 9,820, 779, or 560? Again, pause, do all of your work, and hit play to check your answer. 779 is the answer, because it does not end in a 5 or a 0. Moving on to the divisibility rule of 10. In similar fashion, a number is divisible by 10 that has a 0 in its one column. For example, in 7,630, it ends in 0, it's divisible by 10. The same can be said for the number 410. It ends in 0, so it's divisible by 10. Here's your question. Find the number that is not divisible by 10. 56,920, 7,537, or 870. Hit the pause button and then play to check your answer. The correct answer is 7,537. Way to go. The reason it was 7,537 is because it does not end in 0. And that's the only way it could be divisible by 10, if it ends with a 0. The final divisibility rule that I want to go over is the rule for 6. This one takes a little bit more time to figure out, but you'll notice that you already have the skills to solve for divisibility of 6. A number is divisible by 6 when it's divisible by 2 and 3. That means that the number has to follow both the divisible by 2 rule and the divisible by 3 rule. For example, 408 ends in an even number, which means it complies with the 2 rule. And the sum of the digits, 8 plus 0 plus 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, is divisible by 3 without a remainder, which means 408 is divisible by 2, is divisible by 3, and thus is divisible by 6. Here's your question. Which is not divisible by 6? 8,700, 523, or 7,602? Try it out, hit the pause button, and then play to check your answer. After checking, I can conclude that the answer is 523. Let's check. That's absolutely correct. So now I'm going to show you why. Keep in mind that we are looking for the number that does not comply with the divisibility rule for 6, which means we're looking for a number that is divisible by not just 2, but also divisible by 3. I know that kind of got cut off there, so I just wrote that they need to be divisible by 2 and divisible by 3. So immediately, I did the first rule first, the one that I could come up with quickest. 8,700 is divisible by 2, and in order to check and see if it's divisible by 3, I add 8 plus 7 plus 0 plus 0, and I get 15. And then I check and see if 15 gets divided evenly by 3, which it does, because 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 is 5. I have no remainder. I'm good to go, which means 8,700 is not only divisible by 2, it's divisible by 3 and divisible by 6. The same can be said for 7,602. It ends in an even number 2, which means it's divisible by 2. Then I take 7 plus 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and we already said that 15 divided by 3 is 5, which means 7,602 is divisible by 2 and divisible by 3. Finally, I know that 523 is not divisible by 2 because 3 is not an even number, so it cannot be divisible by 6. But just for the sake of this example, also if we added 5 plus 2, which is 7, plus 3 more is 10, that would not divide evenly by 3. So that means 523 is the incorrect answer. In this case, the answer we were looking for. So we started off with those main questions. How can you tell if a number is a factor with another number? Or how can you tell if a number is divisible by another number? Well, you have to know the rules. And if you divide one number by another and the result is a whole number without a remainder, you get an exact whole number as an answer, then you know it is divisible by. I hope this video helps.